I walked away from my parents the day they picked their new spouses over me and my sister's baby, but now, my dad's in the hospital, fighting for his life, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to forgive them before it's too late. I used to believe our family was unbreakable. We weren't perfect, but we were close. There were Sunday dinners, birthday traditions, movie nights where we'd all pile onto the couch, my parents, my younger sister, and me. We grew up knowing that things got tough, but we stuck together. That's what we were always told. That's what we believed. Even when my parents started arguing more often, even when the laughter became a little quieter, I still thought we'd be okay. Families fight, families struggle, but families stay. When the divorce came, it hit hard. It wasn't one of those situations where both sides calmly agreed to part ways. There were slammed doors, silent dinners, and cold shoulders. My sister cried a lot. She was still trying to make sense of everything, and honestly, so was I. But we leaned on each other. We told ourselves it would get better. We told ourselves our parents just needed time. But instead of healing, it felt like they were eager to move on, like we were just a chapter they were done reading. Mom started dating again almost immediately. At first, I tried to be supportive. I wanted her to be happy, truly, but it wasn't just that she moved on, it was how fast she stopped looking back. Her new boyfriend became her entire world, and somehow we became strangers in her life. Dad wasn't far behind. He met someone and started building a new family. Before we'd even found our footing after the divorce, conversations turned shallow. They stopped asking about our lives. They stopped showing up to things. When my sister found out she was pregnant, I thought maybe that would bring the family back together. Maybe, just maybe, a new baby would be the thing that made them remember who we were to each other. But even that joy was met with silence, disinterest. My mom brushed it off as bad timing. My dad asked one awkward question and then changed the subject. My sister was devastated. I was furious. It was like we didn't matter anymore, like we were leftovers from their past lives they didn't want to deal with. That was when I started realizing we weren't a family anymore. Not in the way we used to be. And maybe, not ever again. It didn't take long before the shift became obvious. Suddenly, everything revolved around their new partners. My mom, who used to call every other day just to check in, stopped answering my texts. When I finally did get through to her, she was always busy out to dinner, at some event, or on another spontaneous weekend trip with her boyfriend. She'd laugh it off, saying she was just enjoying her freedom now. But to me, it felt like we had become inconvenient, background noise to the exciting new life she was building. My sister tried harder than I did to stay connected, probably because of the baby on the way. She kept hoping that once the baby arrived, things would go back to how they were, but deep down, I think we both knew that wasn't going to happen. Dad was no different. Once he started dating his new girlfriend, it was like we'd been erased. He used to take us out for lunch once a week, call us for updates, show up to little things like doctor's appointments or even just random coffee shops, but now radio silence. The woman he was with had 2 kids of her own, and it felt like he'd adopted them overnight, giving them everything he had once reserved for us. He posted pictures with them on Facebook like they were his own, calling them the kids. It was gut-wrenching to see that he could so easily redirect all that attention, all that care, and never once ask how we were doing. When my sister's baby shower came around, we invited them both. It was small, just a handful of close friends and family. Mom said she couldn't come because her boyfriend had surprised her with a weekend getaway. Dad didn't even respond. We waited, we hoped, but neither of them showed up. My sister tried to hide her disappointment, but I saw it in her eyes. That quiet heartbreak you don't know how to explain. She had done everything she could to keep them involved, to remind them that they were going to be grandparents, but it didn't seem to matter. Their priorities were elsewhere. It wasn't just that they were missing events, it was that they were missing us. They weren't interested in being part of our lives anymore, and slowly we stopped trying to be part of theirs. The final straw came on a day I'll never forget. My sister had just put the baby down for a nap and went to grab something from the kitchen when she suddenly collapsed. No warning, no sound, just dropped right there on the floor. I was in the other room and heard a crash. I rushed in and saw her unconscious, pale and barely breathing. The baby started crying in the background, and for a moment everything felt like it was moving in slow motion. My hands were shaking as I called 911. I kept repeating, "Please don't let her die," over and over. After the paramedics arrived and took her to the hospital, I immediately pulled out my phone and called Mom. No answer. I tried again, straight to voicemail. I texted, "Emergency, sister collapsed, hospital." Then I called Dad. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. I left a message, my voice breaking, begging him to call me back. I needed them, not just for me, for my sister, for the baby, for our family. It was one of the scariest days of my life, and all I wanted was for our parents to show up. But they didn't. Hours passed in the emergency room. The doctors said it was a combination of exhaustion, stress, and not eating properly, postpartum complications, they called it. She was stable, thank God, but weak. She needed rest, support, and more than anything, she needed her family. I sat beside her hospital bed holding her hand while she slept, the beeping of machines filling the room. Still no word from either of them. That night, sitting alone in that sterile room with my baby niece sleeping in my lap and my sister unconscious in the bed, something inside me broke. It wasn't just disappointment anymore. It was a deeper kind of hurt, the kind that hardens into resolve. When someone shows you over and over again that you're not a priority, you eventually believe them, and I did. The next morning, I blocked both of their numbers. I didn't want explanations, I didn't want apologies, I wanted peace. I wanted to protect what was left of our little family, me, my sister, and her baby. They had made their choice, and I had finally made mine. I was done waiting for people who never planned to show up. It had been over a year since I'd spoken to either of them. No birthdays, no messages, no awkward holiday calls, complete silence. It wasn't easy at first. There were days when I missed them, moments when I'd pick up my phone out of habit, only to put it down again, but over time the quiet became normal. I started focusing on our new version of family. My sister, her baby, and I had formed something strong, something real. We had each other, and we'd built a life out of the pieces they left behind. Then the phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. It was my dad's girlfriend. Her voice was shaky, and she got straight to the point. My dad was in the hospital with heart failure. It was serious. They didn't know if he was going to make it. She said he'd been asking for me. For a few seconds I couldn't breathe. The words hung in the air, heavy and surreal. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, unsure what to feel. Anger, panic, guilt, I wasn't sure. All I knew was that my chest ached in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. The man who hadn't shown up for me when I needed him most was now lying in a hospital bed asking for me. After I hung up, I just sat in silence. My sister came into the room, saw my face, and knew something was wrong. I told her what had happened, and she didn't say much, just nodded, like she understood before I even finished speaking. She didn't push me, she didn't judge, she just said, "Whatever you decide, I've got your back." I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying old memories, the time he taught me how to ride a bike, the way he used to pack my lunch for school, the sound of his laugh when we watched dumb movies together, and then the silence, the absence, the way he disappeared from our lives without even a fight. I didn't know what the right thing was anymore. I didn't know if I wanted closure, or if I was just afraid of losing the chance to say something I might regret not saying. All I knew was that I wasn't ready. Not yet, maybe not ever. 2 days after the phone call, I found myself walking through the sterile, cold halls of the hospital, unsure of what I was doing. I didn't tell anyone I was going, not my sister, not even myself, really. I just got up, got dressed, and drove. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight they ached, and my heart felt like it was pounding in my throat. I told myself I wasn't going for him. I was going for me, to see if I could face him without crumbling, to see if the anger I'd held on to for so long still burned as fiercely as it used to. The nurse at the front desk pointed me toward his room. The walk down that hallway felt like it took forever. When I finally stepped inside, the room was dim, quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. He looked smaller, older, weaker. The man I remembered, tall, confident, the kind of presence that filled a room, was now lying in a hospital bed, pale and hooked up to wires and tubes. He turned his head slowly when he noticed me and smiled, like he'd been expecting me all along. "Hey, kid," he said, his voice hoarse and fragile. For a moment I just stood there, frozen. I didn't know what to say. A part of me wanted to turn and walk right back out. But another part of me, the part that had once loved him more than anything, kept my feet planted. "I didn't think you'd come," he whispered. "I didn't either," I replied. There was a long silence between us, not uncomfortable, just full, heavy, like the air itself was thick with everything we hadn't said for the past year. Then he spoke again. "I made a lot of mistakes," he said. "I know that." He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to explain it all away. Just those few words. And somehow, they hit harder than anything else he could have said. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I just nodded. "I'm not ready to forgive you," I told him honestly, "but I'm here." He closed his eyes and smiled again, just slightly. "That's enough." And for that moment, just that one, it's been a few weeks since that day in the hospital, and I still don't have all the answers. My dad's condition is stable now, not great, but better than it was. He's still there, in that same room, hooked up to machines, recovering slowly. I haven't visited again. Not yet. I've thought about it more than once. I've even driven by the hospital a few times, sitting in the parking lot with the engine running, staring at the entrance and wondering if I'm supposed to walk back in. But every time I talk myself out of it. Forgiveness isn't a switch you can just flip. I used to think it was about saying the words "I forgive you," and then everything would go back to normal, but nothing about this is normal. There's still so much hurt buried beneath the surface, so many moments I can't unlive, so many words I never got to hear when I needed them most. I'm not angry every day anymore, but I'm not at peace either. It's like standing in the middle of a broken bridge, unsure if it's worth crossing or safer to just walk away. My sister hasn't asked me much about it. I think she's scared that opening this door again will bring back all the pain we worked so hard to bury. I don't blame her. We've rebuilt something strong together, her, me, and the baby. We've created new routines, new memories, new laughter, and part of me fears that if I let my dad back in even a little, it could threaten that. But there's also a quiet voice in the back of my mind that wonders, if I don't go back, will I regret it one day? I don't know yet if I'll ever fully forgive him. I don't know if I want him back in my life, or if visiting that hospital room was a one-time thing. What I do know is that I'm not making this decision from a place of guilt anymore. I'm making it from a place of strength. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I've survived heartbreak, abandonment, silence, and I've learned how to stand on my own. If forgiveness comes, it will be on my terms, in my time, and only when I know that doing it won't cost me more than I've already lost.